sharp rise in book bans.
Rash of book banning.
Efforts to ban books.
Efforts to ban specific books.
Ban more than 1,100 titles.
My peers and I launched a petition against our book ban, which reached over 1,000 signatures in just 7 days. The author, Maya Kobabe, and the New York State English Council have both signed it.
Hundreds of laws have been introduced or made into law with the goal of limiting debate about race and gender in the classrooms. And with that, it erases histories and life experiences from K through 12 classrooms.
It is technically a young adult memoir about the author and their struggle with growing up and kind of identifying as genderqueer and not really fitting the mold of either male or female. And then there is a depiction of something what parents would consider vulgar, but at the same time, it was part of the narrative that the author was trying to say.
It also had like a domino effect, it trickled down, and apparently more schools decided to ban it simply because it talked about gender and that it contained obscene materials.
That book is a memoir. They're so threatened by someone's life story. I think that just shows how powerful we are.
Part of what they're banning is truth. It's reality. It's lived reality for people who are living like right now. It doesn't mean A, that we don't belong, B, that we don't deserve respect, and also that in a classroom in particular, that we can't learn how to coexist. I would never walk into my classroom and say that their lives are obscene.
Books are just simply a subset of what problems are already present. The whole point of libraries is that they are a bulwark of information. They are meant to be there to help inform and to create a space where you can freely look for information without feeling like you're judged.
We are a library, which means our books are free. And that means we tend to support communities that cannot purchase the books on their own. When you ban a book from a library and then the answer is like, oh, well, just go out and buy it yourself, that is not an option for a lot of kids and a lot of kids from marginalized communities who don't have access.
It is inappropriate to let one parent decide what is suitable material for all other families and students. In addition, not every student has the means of transportation to go to a public library or the money to purchase a computer to read it online.
Because it's limiting the expression of people's ideas, their histories, their culture. Maybe some people have like a life experience that many people don't have to deal with, fortunately, and some people may have that same life experience, but they don't have anyone to connect with. So banning books and placing all these government regulations of taking these books off the shelves, a lot of people won't be able to find this connection with someone who has dealt with their experience. So a lot of my classmates and friends are part of the LGBTQ community. I just really wanted to stand up for them because I couldn't just let discrimination happen in front of my own eyes and not do anything about it. And I wanted to show people who ban books that, like us students, are not just going to stand there and do nothing about it. We're going to do something about it.
My view has become really thinking more about age rather than acceptability. I think that there are some things, some topics, some issues that younger kids are just not ready to hear or experience. I'm not really a fan of saying what kids should or should not be reading because I think we all mature differently. We all get to the level of interest that we have at a different time. Then you just end up in the weeds picking, you can read this on this day at this time.
I don't think it's censorship to organize things by age because you're also just now able to create a more user-friendly experience when people come into a library and ask, where is something that's for my age demographic? I don't necessarily think that you need to have warnings and such like that, like warning, do not let your 10-year-old read this young adult graphic novel. You want to be able to create a user-friendly experience.
We're not banning things or not controlling it, but making it appropriate. And so that if kids have questions, they can ask us and feel safe to do so.
I think the most important thing is to just, think of it as, I might think of this as obscene, but maybe it's not obscene for another parent. So I shouldn't limit a book for another kid.
Banning LGBT books isn't going to stop anyone from being gay. It will just make them miserable and alienate them. And the consequences might be fatal.
The attempted suicide rate for the LGBTQ youth is at an all-time high of 42%.
If you're trying to figure out who you are what really helps is being able to see, oh, there's other people like me.
This is just a fact that kids kill themselves. Kids commit suicide constantly for these reasons. Feeling completely left out and feeling like no one wants you. No one wants you the way you are. People want you to be different, be the way they want you to be. It's a really dangerous, harmful thing for a young person to be so without support. I think that sometimes just finding any tiny piece of media that feels affirming is enough.
If I had a student who was experiencing this, and the thing that could save their life was to know that there are other people who are experiencing this, how amazing would it be that they could read a story that would validate them enough that they would want to keep going and want to keep thriving. And I hate to make it that kind of morbid and sad, but I think that's where we are. Like when you're telling people that who they are is wrong, so we're literally saying, nope, we don't want to hear about your life. It's not right.
Historically speaking, book banning has not had a good history. I mean, it's happened in a lot of different places to control the populace. And that is never a good thing. One person in a democracy should not be able to tell another person what they can read. As a community, I still think censorship is super dangerous. No one is forcing you in a library to read a book, but you should not be forcing anybody else to not have access to that book.
It is an insatiable thirst for knowledge and information, and to take away that information and the ability to find that information, I think is terrifying.
Another aspect of the conversation is that books are not like tweets that you just put into the atmosphere and they're there forever. There are so many steps to crafting a book before it even gets printed. For a book to be published, so many people have to agree that it's worth it. When we're banning them, we're not just banning the person who wrote it or the person who it's about. We're banning every single person who read it, who bought it, who supported it, who believed in it, who edited it. Every single person who has anything to do with the crafting of that story is what you're banning. That's who you're banning.
The people that are behind the book banning, I feel like a lot of them don't even read some of the books that are being banned currently. They just look at it as like, oh, it's gay, or it has gender or LGBTQ stuff in it, and they just want to get rid of it.
And yes, I've read the book not once, but twice.
If not everybody comes out and votes on like the school board, you don't know. We could be 2 people away from a very different school.
If you're going to ban one, you need to go through the entire curriculum of everything else and see if there's anything similar to that and ban that as well, even if it has sort of heteronormative ideas. My hope is that it becomes that sort of conversation that we have now about books that were banned 10 years ago, that we understand that they were banned and challenged, but we read them now because we know they're banned and challenged, and we do that to understand why that happened.
Books change. What teachers were allowing their students to read 50 years ago is different than what we're allowing our students to read now, because the world is different. What some of the adults in our lives may have experienced and what they may consider polite and correct is different.
It's important for kids to see different issues and different viewpoints from their own. They just want to keep their kids in a safe bubble forever and protect them from all harm at all costs. How will you ever grow? That's not going to happen in the real world, and they need to be prepared for that.
Artists in general are very provocative and controversial. I think that's our job to be. I think it's our job to challenge people and sort of discuss the status quo and the things that people don't want to discuss. Mm-hmm. And also our experiences, our own experiences.
For every person that hates, there's always 3 other people that support you. There's always people who have your back.